Alright, hello and welcome. So, yesterday we talked about what I think is going to be the most important thing going into Fortuna, and today we're going to go over a couple of more general things. Just general, good information to have going into Fortuna. First and foremost, I want to remind people that the mining is going to be using the same tools between PoE and Fortuna. This was shown off on a dev stream, so if you do not already, I would highly advise you to get your Focus Nosum Cutter, Advanced Nosum Cutter, whichever one you can get up to, in time for Fortuna, because there is likely to be new materials that we're going to need from the mining on Venus, so probably grab that if you can. I think that's going to be fairly important. Besides that, to go along with some of the going fast Warframe tips that I talked about yesterday, I wanted to talk about some general Warframe stuff that you should probably have access to going into Fortuna, whether that's because it is just generally useful, or in that it's going to be specifically useful in Fortuna itself. First and foremost, we have Inaros. Inaros is a Swiss Army knife. He can do just about anything. He has massive amounts of crowd control. He's almost invincible in like a realistic context, like in any content that you're actually realistically supposed to be doing. Inaros ain't gonna die. He's just incapable of doing so. That is exemplified by using adaptation on him, which makes him hilariously strong. Like, dying just becomes a thing that you think about sometimes every once in a while, but it never actually happens. It's ridiculous, and this is the build for Inaros. Obviously, if you don't have adaptation or you don't have it leveled up yet, you could just swap this out for the Gladiator HP mod, and that's just fine. It's what I was using before I started using adaptation, but if you have access to adaptation, I would definitely suggest it. So Inaros, I think, is going to be a very good, just general getting a feel for the place Warframe, in that you can bring him out into the Venus open world, and the likelihood that you're going to have any issues surviving the content you encounter, I think, is going to be fairly low. Now, on a more offensive standpoint, and this is, of course, my very personal recommendation, Mesa. Mesa is an incredible Warframe for murder. In addition to that, Mesa is fairly survivable whenever melee is not being considered. And the big thing that I think is going to be useful for Mesa to do in the open world is that there seem to be a lot of spider bots. And I know some people don't like spiders very much. So what if you Mesa'd all of them? Like, having a swarm of spiders? Mesa could probably take care of that. Also, in addition to that, kill all of these enemy type bounties. Mesa, very good at murder, it turns out. So, I think she's going to be really useful, especially in combination with the Arcwing stuff that we talked about yesterday. So, if you're looking for, like, a super killer, Mesa she's probably going to get you there. But thing in terms of murder that Mesa cannot really do is DPS enemies that are immune to abilities. Now, for that, there are actually two major options, and most people know about both of them, but we're going to go over them really quickly. First and foremost, if there is any Eidolon-like activity, like, say, fighting those giant spider orb mothers, Chroma, traditionally, very good at killing that stuff. Obviously, Chroma is kind of the best one for taking down Eidolons in terms of popping all of the Synovia, and I don't think that's going to change going into Venus. If we have a super boss that needs to be taken down, having a Chroma is going to be very, very useful, and the build is expensive, but normal for Chroma. So, you can, of course, go that direction, and this is, I think, slightly less applicable to a lot of situations than maybe in Inaros in terms of survivability, but if you're keeping all your buffs going as Chroma, you're very unlikely to die as him as well for general exploration. With that, very similar to Chroma, but also considerably more accessible, I feel, is Rhino. Rhino is just generally good. That goes for literally every piece of content in this entire game. They release content, Rhino is good at it. Since Rhino has existed, which is like forever, Rhino has been good at the content DE puts out. That's just how it's been. Rhino is nearly invulnerable. He has good crowd control when that's needed. He can damage buff himself to like Timbuktu and back. He's like second banana only to Chroma for hunting Eidolons in terms of being the DPS. He has a hell of a lot going for him. However, the one downside to Rhino in an open world context is that your Iron Skin is disabled whenever you jump into your Arcwing. So just for like consistency of survivability and not having to recast your Iron Skin all the time, if you're just looking for more of the survival front, I think Inaros is going to be a better choice purely because of switching into Arcwing, disabling your abilities. But yeah, Rhino, he's a staple. He's good at literally everything. So if you want to just keep using Rhino, I can't really argue against you. That's just totally fair. And with that, we have one more thing to talk about, and it's rather specific. So, those of you that watch the dev streams, you will have seen Rebecca go hunting for an animal for a long period of time, and then also a short period of time later. That hunting stuff, there's really only one thing you need to know, and that's Ivara. Ivara goes invisible, and then the animal won't see you. It will make hunting these animals very, very simple. She, like, literally, Ivara is the hunter. That's, like, her thing. Just hunt the animals with the Ivara. Obviously, there are some other options to this. Obviously, Loki's going to be quite good at it, and you could even use probably, like, Ash and Octavia. But Ivara, like, she's just built for it. She's just built strong to hunt these animals down. That seems to be her one true purpose in life based on the content they've shown on streams. So if you're going to be getting into the hunting and like getting all of those animals all collected and all that business, yeah, Ivara is kind of going to be what's up. And there are two builds for her. I haven't done a build video for her recently. This is the Sleepy Ivara build, which is more crowd control focused. And then this is the just normal, like, killing stuff, also not terrible range, like, just good things all around build that I normally use. Sleepy Ivara generally more useful in terms of if you just don't want to be bothered by enemies. But this is, of course, if you're going to be fighting at all, the power strength and all that business to make your 4 hilariously strong is there. And then, of course, the Artemis Bow Build. Pretty normal stuff here. It's only 3 Forma, not too bad. But yeah, that is kind of going to do it for just general tips to get people ready for being in Fortuna. It's gotta be soon, so you probably don't have a lot of time to prepare all of these things, so probably just go for what you think is going to be most important when it launches. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you tomorrow.